Hello guys and welcome to another video from Oscar Cooper. I hope you are all well. Yes, we are doing side-scrolling platform games, the best on the PlayStation 4. I have 15. We're going to start with Risk of Rain. Smaller little game this, indie game, not too well known. I feel it should get some more attention though because it's pretty damn awesome. Class select, just like anything else, but it is a roguelike, which means that you unlock weapons on the fly and you also only have one life. Now, you start in a very large procedurally generated map. I think it is anyway, because I don't think I've either started in different places a few times or they are, I'm not too sure. But anyway, you buy things with currency earned by killing stuff, which is various unlocks, and you can see that you've got specials down at the bottom there, which are a bit like Diablo. So you've got the R buttons and the circle, and they've got cooldowns, that sort of stuff. The enemies are really cool. It's really small. Everything's really small, and look at the size of the weapon roster and perk unlock table. It's absolutely huge. It's a bit like Enter the Gungeon or anything like that. And plus points for this because it actually has a two-player mode, so that's really awesome. It's a platformer, it's a roguelike, it's got unlockable weapons, it's got cool loot, it's got a sort of brilliant boss mechanic, which means that what you're doing on each level is you're looking for what's called a portal. That's that red thing up there, and the longer in the level the harder the game gets, so the quicker you find the portal the easier it is. Once you activate it, the boss is activated and he comes after you. You've got a set time period to either kill him or survive. The game goes crazy, it just goes mental. The amount of perks and cool stuff and missiles and little attack drones and various tiny little perks on the way the enemies will bleed after you shoot them, or you can have additional special moves added is limitless. It's awesome. Risk of Rain is really awesome. Number one on the list. Must look at it. Towerfall Ascension is up next, and yes, again, another very small, relatively unknown indie game, but this is very close to my heart, this game. I really do enjoy the graphics on it, and I know there's probably some 12-year-old Fortnite fanatics out there who are like, what are you talking about? But I love these retro graphics, and I love the fact that this is a 4-player couch co-op game. It's been on one of my lists already. It's very good, but let's just look at its platforming and why I put it on a platforming list. Well, it's got a really cool open world map. You'll be familiar with that from sort of any normal platform game, Mario, etc. But you're actually in a room, you're trapped in a room that's got a wraparound screen, and you've got a bow, or depending on what class you choose, and when you fire the bow you have to retrieve your arrow, which is really a clever idea, and it gets really sort of panicky because you'll run out of ammo. You have to go over the other side of the screen and go and get it to fire at the enemies. You can also jump on the enemies' heads to kill them. The game is incredibly addictive because it's really hard and it's very unforgiving, but it's also, again, as the previous game, it's got some really amazing unlocks and perks and different things that you can get, and there's stuff like bomb arrows and just crazy stuff to sort of change the gameplay up a bit. And you might think it looks a bit simple, but it's not. The jumping mechanics and physics are really good. The modes are co-op and versus in 4-player. 4-player versus on this is really good, and I've stipulated that before on my original 4-player 13-player list. I'll put that link in the menu, but it's such a great game. Towerfall Ascension, well worth a look at. Super Time Force Ultra is up next, and that's a bit of a mouthful, that name, and this game is quite special. We got it free a long time ago, probably about a year and a half ago, and of course, as always, I ignored it, and I just pulled it out of my game library about 2 months ago to have a little play on it, and I'm very impressed with it. It's quite a complicated setup here. What happens is you have unlimited lives, but you have very limited time on the level. When you die, you get the opportunity to rewind time and switch between one of 3 characters. One of them's a ranged sniper, that's the lady you saw. The other guy's like a heavy gunner. There's a bloke with a shield that can deflect things. You can then use that person in conjunction with your replay character still on screen, so you can stack things up. It's quite difficult to explain, but if someone can't deal with one situation and they die, you then rewind time, pull in the other person that can deal with that situation, like oncoming bullets, so you'd need the shield guy, and then the two will work in conjunction in real time. It's not simple, but it really works incredibly, and the game's very unforgiving as well as extremely difficult, but it looks great. I love this art style, and I love the idea of having a really complicated play mechanic like this set on such a simple art palette. It's cool, and it's retro enough but futuristic enough with its mechanic to really appeal to me. So Rogue Legacy, and yes, you guessed it, it's another roguelike, but this one's quite special. This has been around for a long time, and essentially it's a game that lets you tap into the lineage of each character. What I mean by that is when you die, you then get to select someone who is related to your predecessor, so they had the same traits or different traits depending on who died and what family tree you're going down. It's a bit weird, and it's also got quite a lot of depth in regards to the unlocks and upgrades and finding blueprints and getting new pieces of armor and getting a better weapon and stuff, and that's got a permanent basis through the whole of the game regardless of how many times you die. It's actually very appealing with its playstyle. I instantly get used to jumping and hacking and slashing and exploring. It's got a Metroid-esque map up in the top corner there, and each of the 4 worlds has its own boss which you can go straight to, a la Dark Souls, or you can muck around and get money and upgrade and get stronger so that you're confident with fighting them. It's quite difficult. The enemies are very unforgiving, and they can swamp you, and one hit is obviously a huge chunk off your energy, and it's not very generous for giving you energy back, but it's got this appeal because it's got a very sort of jolly jumping technique to it, and some of the different characters some of the lineage characters that you would choose have better jumps, some have quicker move speeds. This game is actually incredible and really overlooked, and it's a brilliant platformer with loads of depth. Yeah, it's time for Guns Gone Cannelloni again. Oh my god, this game gets put on so many lists. First of all, because it's a 4-player couch co-op game and a brilliant 2-player couch co-op game, but I play a lot of it single player. I'm really interested. I'm trying to finish it at the moment because I just want to see what it does, what it's going to do to me. It's really just a side scroller, and yeah, people are like, well, I don't really see a lot of platforming in this. In later game, platforming becomes extremely important, but what I like about it is how natural the platforming feels. It's got a really nice smooth jump mechanic. It's very it's not too taxing in regards to having to get to certain areas, but it does push you. Not only is the gunplay top notch, I mean, I play this game for the animation and the gore and the one-liners, but Guns Gone Cannelloni is well worth looking at if you're into platform gaming, because it's got this awesome addition of zombies and some really macabre, amazing weaponry. And again, I'm scoring these games on playing couch co-op games, and this one's got 4-player. Yeah, he is totally awesome, and of course it's Super Meat Boy, and yeah, it is one of the stronger platforming games available on the PlayStation Network, and I'd love to have a physical copy of this game. I don't know if you know the studio. I owe a lot to this game. This was one of the first games I ever bought for my PlayStation 4. Well, I'm lying, I didn't buy it. It was on the PlayStation Plus for free. It was one of the first games I found that cost me nothing, that I got hours and hours and hours out of. And if you know your history and you know the team behind this, they also did The Binding of Isaac afterwards, and The Binding of Isaac is one of the most strongest success stories for an indie game, but this one also is up there with that. What is it? Well, you're basically just solving a puzzle, but you're solving a puzzle with a really cool jump mechanic that allows you to stick and slide down walls, and you really get your head around it very quickly. There's a way of jumping, just like on Mario, where you would hold down your run button with your thumb and then lean on the jump button with the other side of your thumb. You know what I mean by that, and that just feels really natural. And then your flow through the air can also be controlled with taking your finger off that run button. I can't quite explain it in too much detail, but the precision that you can get from this game in regards to its mechanics on platforming are next to none. It's absolutely awesome, and of course there's so much content. Its difficulty is absolutely ruthless. It is unforgiving. This game will make you cry and not apologize. It also queues up all your failures at the end of each level. Oh my god, does it get difficult. I'm stuck on hell. Give me some help, peeps. So velocity needs to be looked at. Relatively new actually, and relatively new to my library as well, and I came across it because I saw a trailer for it a while ago and I thought, woof, I need to look at this in more detail. It's a very high octane platform game, and it doesn't really obey a lot of the rules that the previous games do. What I mean by that is that it's quite on rails, the platform sections of this game, and as you can see, it's very colourful, it's very quick, it's very sort of slidey and flashy, but it also switches between a top-down shooter sections, and these sections probably occupy, I'm thinking about 40% to 50% of the base game. So it is actually a shoot 'em up as well as a platform game, and it's not a bad shoot 'em up either. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I played it for this review, and I got stuck with it for like 2.5 hours, 3 hours straight. I was like, I need to know more about this game. I need to know more about how it works and what it's telling me and how the mechanics work, because the buttons are very different to any other platformer, and just what's going on screen is very different. It's quite puzzly. You can teleport yourself, and you need to be thinking on your feet in regards to a lot of the traps and a lot of the puzzles that it offers you in game. It's not simple. It gives you the mechanics and then sort of leaves them with you, and there's quite a lot left up to your brain to work out. It's also got some really cool unlocks, really good art style as well. It's very flashy. It's a very slick piece of production, and of course it comes with an in-game calculator. My God, do I need that nowadays? Yes, that music, that beautiful 8-bit retro music should start up and you should automatically know what this game is. Of course, it's Shovel Knight, and this is actually the expansion. The expansion that's available standalone for like $12, and I bought that straight away for this video actually, because I own Shovel Knight twice on my DS's, and I also I'm probably going to buy it on my Switch, and you're probably thinking, why? This is a hideous 8-bit game that looks like something that came out 25 years ago. Shovel Knight's amazing. Shovel Knight takes the cream of a beautiful retro history and just sits it on top of a marvelous game. It's, you know, this industry's distilled this type of game for over 30 years, and Shovel Knight shoves that all right in your face. It's incredible, and it's very, very difficult, but its art style is adorable. Its music is just amazing and addictive. Its play style is so harsh and Metroid-esque that it can't do any wrong in my eyes. Shovel Knight was a success before it came out. I remember seeing trailers for it and thinking, this is going to do so well, and rightfully so. Brilliant boss fights, brilliant colours, brilliant variations on all the worlds, really good unlocks on the magic, and just it's got these cool little sweet RPG elements to it. Lovely little game, this top platformer. Really, we're getting into the good stuff now. This is a very, very strong platforming game.
Melee Super Turbo Championship Edition.
Yes, Guacamelee coming in, and again, this is a repeat, and I'm sorry guys, if I'm repeating games on these lists, if you're regulars to me and you're like, for God's sakes, Coop, change it up a bit. This was featured on a 4-player list I did recently, and of course just on another sort of couch co-op list, because as you can see at the top of the screen there, it's drop in, drop out, up to 4 players, no PlayStation Network needed. That made it score really high because it is so awesome in that respect. Also, this game has got such a great writing team behind it, and an art team behind it. It's amazing how aesthetically good looking it is, and how crisp and clean and lovely these lines are with these colours. Really, the art department put loads of thought into this. I love its look, you know, and it is a great brawler as well as a platform game. And you're probably thinking, yeah, it's just a jump and hack and slash. It's not. There's some really taxing platform sections to this game. You'll see one of them in a second, but just look at these characters. Look at this boss. How amazing is it? The way the camera pans in and out to give you a better view. Everything feels so natural, and it can all be done with 4 players. Talking about fiddly platforming, check this out. I mean, I think I did this by mistake, but the game is relentless when it comes to challenges and decent platforming puzzles. Absolutely brilliant. Guacamole. So yeah, nostalgia time again, and as with Super Meat Boy, Broforce was one of the first games I ever featured on my channel as well. I owe this game a lot, and again we got it free from PlayStation, and again we've got 4-player slots here, and again you don't need a PlayStation Network to sign in. Absolutely adorably gorgeous this game is, but my God, has it got a grisly, violent underbelly to it. If you don't know it, then it sort of plays on the 80s action hero theme. You can be any number, 18 different characters at any point in the game when you rescue a survivor, you get switched. All the characters have their own special on the circle button, and the game is just a relentless platformer. It is so difficult. I find it really difficult. I'm only 50% through it. I've owned the damn game for 3 years, but I love it. It goes on when mates come round. It goes on when I just want a piece of retro action. I love how the puzzles work with the physics and the explosions and all the death and blood. What a game. What a brilliant, brilliant game. Broforce. So next up, we've got the remake of Strider, would you believe? So this is the first Capcom game on the list. I'm going through a Capcom love affair at the moment, and I had to put at least one game on the list, but this is actually not a waste of time at all. Big fan of the original Strider, and this is sticking to its roots pretty well. Obviously, it's had a lick of paint, very much like Shadow Complex if you played that, and this has kind of taken the Shadow Complex slot, because I could prefer this. It's got the Strider heritage, it's got the cool soundtrack, it's got the cool graphics, it's got the speed that the Strider games used to have, but it's been double folded. It's absolutely awesome. Using your weapon and unlocking it and getting new moves out of it are amazing. Mini bosses are everywhere. The big bosses are amazing. Not going to show any because I'll be spoiling it. They're really platinum size, outlandish, amazing. This game plays very well for a remake and for a reskin. You know, nothing's been lost from the Strider heritage, and it's still really cool to have that Metroid-esque map in the corner and sort of unlock different areas of the map depending on what section of your weapon you've opened. And just the hack and slash mechanics themselves are amazing. You can adjust your jump angle right in the middle of your jump. What I mean is you can jump and then have second thoughts and just swing right back. You do that at any point in the arc, so it allows you to sort of straddle enemies in mid-air above them and then sort of come down and give them a sort of bosh on top of the head at your choice and at which angle you choose. It's quite difficult to explain. It's very fluid. It's a very good looking game actually. It's not massively expensive either. I picked this up pretty recently and I was just so impressed with it. It's just so nice to have a nice slick looking Capcom game, platform hack and slash that is Strider. Okay, next up, yeah, it's Owlboy. Yeah, you heard me right, Owlboy. This game made quite a name for itself on Steam. You might already be aware of it. I think it may have even been kickstarted. It's a throwback, obviously with visuals and playstyle and music. Everything is just crazily, 8 to 16-bit. I actually love it. Look how cool that fireplace is, this little house, the sprite, the way he's animated, everything's amazing. It's kind of a sort of open world. It kind of a little bit like Zelda 2, it plays on that sort of larger map questing system, but it's just awesome with its art style and its play style and its homage to that era. And again, we have all the quality of life additions with a modern twist as well. You know, it's really nice to have that nostalgia, but still that not having to put up with some of the gripes that we have with those sorts of games. As you can see, you can fly and you can melee attack, but you can also pick up a bevy of characters within the game that all offer different weapons, and you fire the weapon yourself manually once you've picked them up. So what they've done there is they've sort of given you a sort of limitless interchangeability in regards to what you can pick up, what you can throw, what characters you can pick up and throw, and that's pretty big a sort of technical aspect to the game, because you have a choice of character and a choice of weapon to take to, a bit like Mega Man when you take to a boss to sort of defeat him. It's brilliant and a real surprise. Again, this is quite recent, this game, but I love it to bits. It looks awesome, and just have a listen to it. Anyone 30 plus just then got a heart back to their youth. I know I certainly did when I first heard that sort of rapturous music open up as I was presented with a lovely free world map, and everything sort of fell into place with the game, you know. And the boss fights are very good as well. There's a lot of puzzles in here. It isn't really a true side-scrolling platform. It's a very 360-degree orientated game with the flight aspect added. But it's the characters that you pick up. It's the dialogue that's very well done. There's also a really cool day and night transition. There's quite a cool story. We're coming to the end of the list, so this has actually made it quite high, and again, it is pretty recent, so I recommend you look at this. It's an indie game that needs some attention. So we're at number 4. We're 4 away from the winner, and this I expected to be a little bit higher to be quite honest with you. Very, very recent. It's Unravel II, and it's from EA, but also a slightly smaller studio that they own and fund. So technically, this is an indie game that's made under the roof of a larger developer / publisher. What a lovely surprise. Never played the first one, grabbed hold of this because I heard it was couch co-op, and wow, does it do it really well. It's got a very, very clever bunch of physics and mechanics in, but more importantly, it looks really stunning. It's got that sort of I first saw this sort of larger realist sort of artist direction on Pikmin, I think it was, especially the one on the Wii U, and this one plays on that really well. Little Nightmares has got this aesthetic as well. I love the idea of the real world scaled up for smaller characters. Micro Machines did it back in the 90s, but this one really grabs it by both hands, and you find yourself on all kinds of different environments, like in kids' playgrounds where, you know, a beach ball is a massive obstacle for you, and traversing things like chairs and stuff is a huge, almost like Honey I Shrunk the Kids-esque element to it, which I love to bits. Extremely adorable characters and quite a convoluted story that doesn't actually revolve around two balls of twine, which may come as a surprise. Musically and aesthetically and visually, this game seems extremely high production, very high budget. I'm not too sure how many hours are involved in this game, but surely a studio of that size couldn't keep up this level of polish for, you know, 25-30 hours. I imagine it's like 10 to 15 hours long, but what we've played of it we absolutely love. There's swing mechanics and rope mechanics that allow you to lengthen and shorten the rope. This enables a buddy to go over and then retrieve you and bring you up to speed. It's very clever, and there are a few baddies in there, but more importantly, what will happen is you'll just find yourself gobsmacked at how pretty it is, and how sort of significant yet insignificant you feel in the world. I think it's set in England actually. We had this chat. This bridge and these railings and those benches, they're very sort of European, so I love that idea, and there's the characters in the background there. So Unravel II is a game that's well worth looking at. Couch co-op and very innovative platforming here. And no, it didn't win, and Rayman Legends was chattering away in the back of my brain to say, you should make me win, you should make me win this list, because there's nothing I do not do wrong. I'm a couch co-op game, I'm one of the prettiest games on the list, I've got more content than any of these games on the list, I've got more replayability than any of these games on the list, my graphics are stronger, or if not the strongest, than any of these games on the list. Rayman Legends fires on all cylinders when it comes to amazing, innovative couch co-op platform gaming. It's a stunner. I own it on just about every system. It gets marked for being available on the Vita. I think I've got the Wii U version. Absolutely amazing. Every time it comes out on with a different angle, it's really worth a look. The unlockables, the characters, the music, the hilarities with what goes on with the enemies, the noises they make, the stupid stuff you catch them doing, all the secrets. That's another thing, is its replayability. Rayman Legends has got so much inside it that you would never get to the bottom of it all, never. And also it will punish you if you want it to. There's levels on this game that are just eye-wateringly difficult, and there's levels that you can just breeze through. There's just so much to choose from. What an awesome platform game, Rayman Legends. Yeah, you should have known it was coming. So it's Inside is at number 2, sitting comfortably at number 2. From the makers of Limbo, everyone knows about that game. Absolute groundbreaker, brilliant indie. The indie team that make this game they teach us a lesson every time they come out with one of their games. They don't. Well, one of the first things I notice about Inside is there's no UI. You don't need new UI when you've got a game that's aesthetically this rich, and the atmospherics and the backdrops and the stories. And just the game's simplicity. You may have played Another World, and Flashback as well. They kind of remind me of this a little bit. And you might be thinking it's not really a platformer. I mean, where's the connection here? Well, it is. It's a side-scrolling platformer, but it's got a heavy element of puzzling, and it's a welcomed element of puzzling. You don't feel cheated. It's not nasty. Some of these scenes, like this one, are just so tense, and it's brutal as well. You know, the way you die and how you die and the reasons reasons for you dying. There's just so many questions, and the world that it's set in, I think is part of this game's strength. Just watching it sort of roll past in the background, I'm not gonna break this game down into immense detail. I'm just going to let one of the puzzles roll past as I talk. When I first came to it, I mean, it nearly won Game of the Year from me for I think it was 2016 when it came out. It's kind of like a David and Goliath story. The people that made this, they put their heads together and they thought, how can we build a world that pulls the player through, but really offers. They really don't offer you anything new. I mean, there's nothing that this guy's doing now that we haven't seen in games previously. But it's the fact that it's got this atmosphere and these stories behind everything, and these questions that you need to know about, and just the strange machinery, and the fact that it's dark all the time, and why is this kid in this situation, and that alone is enough to push you towards the end. And it's not a huge game by any stretch of the imagination, but what it does do is give you an experience that you don't forget. Now, that for me, I don't mind that trade-off. I hear a lot of people moaning about games being too short. If a game's too short, or if a game's like this and it's in my eyes a perfect length, it leaves you wanting. You try eating your favorite food, for breakfast, lunch and dinner, you won't like it after a while. And I think this game offers that perfect little amount that just leaves you wanting more. They're up to other stuff. They're working on a third game. They're very secretive. We never hear much about it, but every time they come out with something, they just clear up, and this one totally deserved that award, and it's still very strong now. If you've never gone near it, I think you should look at this, because it's not complicated. You don't need to know what happened in Limbo. There's barely any dialogue at all, so it's not a sort of click through loads of speech to work out the game. It's all left up to you, and the way that this puzzle works is kind of typical of this game. It's trial and error. It's the strangest machine doing the strangest things with tiny little chicks. I mean, it's almost cruel, but it feels so right, and just how you trust the game's physics and mechanics to produce an answer to a puzzle that you've looked at is brilliant. And I really can't show too much footage. This is early footage in the game. I can't show too much of it because I've finished it, and the ending's just mind-blowing, and the build-up to the ending is just incredible, and it doesn't hang about. It gets to the meat of the story very quickly. So Inside is a must. Housemarque, innit? You think I'd do a list without a Housemarque game in it? Of course Metaphors 1 is absolutely blinding. This thing is just the most high-octane, bullet-stormed, platform, mental, Metroid, open, crazy, just, you can't, there's no keeping up with it. It's absolutely awesome. The gunplay is brilliant. It's a twin-stick platform shooter, would you believe? That works just as well. They've even kept the move mechanics from their other games in it, so you're completely at home with that dash button. The way that you can use the other alternate weapon to set off mines, like this ray gun can pop that thing, and it can also make the platforms physical, so that you can stand on them. The way that the anti-gravity works with it turns into a shoot 'em up all of a sudden. It doesn't feel unnatural at all. Completely blends together. The enemies look so incredible. The particle physics are of Housemarque trademark beautifulness. I mean, you'd think it would slow down. It's HDR supported as well, by the way. Runs better on a Pro as well. Just the craziness, the fluidness of the movement in this game, the way you can initiate a special and slow down time and just turn a whole situation around because you've built your special up. The way that the weapons slot in and out, the grenade launcher, how that works. You can stun stuff if you dash near it, making it blue. Check this out, that thing's immobile now. Bosh will take it out. I mean, just and the flow that you get when you get into it, when the penny drops, because the jump buttons are one, and that took God, that took some getting used to. You would instinctively go to X every time, but once your head gets round that jump and that dash, you're unstoppable. You're just completely, your feet never touch the ground, both in the game and out the game, you know what I mean? It's excellent game, excellent boss fights as well. I got to one at the end of the first section the other day, and just thought, whoa, this game is brilliant. It really is everything I want from a side-scrolling platformer. You know, it's very gun heavy. I know that's probably not what a lot of people want. They want more sort of technical jumping, that sort of stuff, but this has that as well, and it's from Housemarque, and this is one of their last games. So guys, you need to go and check out Matterfall. See you down there.